Celebrating 47 years on the air, award-winning Farmweek is a production of Mississippi State University Extension.
Today on Farmweek, he's the new leader of MSU Extension. Today, we begin the process of getting to know him better. In Southern Gardening, Eddie Smith takes us to a little woodland garden. You could have your own such getaway. In the markets, Zach digs deep into this month's supply and demand report. And in our feature, once again, we're back in time with women in poultry. Farmweek starts right now.
Hello everyone, I'm Zach Ashmore.
And I'm Mike Russell. Great to have you with us again here on Farm Week. Today, a bit of a different kind of a show. This week, we begin a series of reports about Extension and about its new leader here at Mississippi State University, Dr. Angus CATCHOT. Keep in mind that MSU is a land-grant university, and along with that title comes a special kind of responsibility to the state and especially to its people. Extension is a big part of that responsibility, and over the coming weeks and months, you're going to hear a lot more about Extension here on Farm Week. For now, though, we're going to spend a little time getting to know Dr. CATCHOT, and I think you'll agree he's a different kind of a guy, and that's a good thing.
We're a hospitality state.
Dr. Angus CATCHOT, recently appointed as director of Mississippi State University Extension. A Mississippi native, he's new to the job, but not new to Extension. For 18 years, he worked as Extension entomologist and says his whole job was about building relationships. It's that skill that helped earn and empower his new role in leading one of the most essential organizations in Mississippi. Extension is a people organization, he says, and he's now speaking to all the people in the Magnolia State, farmers or otherwise. And just who are the Extension stakeholders?
I would say every citizen in this state is a stakeholder to some degree. Some may not even know it yet, but they are. And those are the ones that I want to reach. Traditionally, we've always thought of Extension with agriculture. And of course, agriculture is a huge part of what we do, particularly in a rural state like Mississippi. But I would say every citizen in this state has a unique opportunity to learn the programming that we can deliver that will help them enrich their lives, become more productive citizens, more profitable in their businesses, or you name it. Our programming is fairly infinite in the things that we're able to deliver, but everybody in the state is a stakeholder to some degree or another.
For an organization like Extension, one that serves so many stakeholders, especially in a post-COVID world, goal setting is a part of everyday life. CATCHOT has two big goals right out of the chute, and he hasn't wasted a moment tackling those goals.
One of my biggest goals is to extend our reputation and the knowledge of what we do. If I had to wager right now, I would say there's probably 50% of the people in the state that don't fully understand Extension. I want every person in the state to understand what we can offer them. And look, we're doing this not because we're motivated by profit or anything else. We're doing this because we genuinely care about the people of this state, and we want to enrich their lives and make them better, both culturally, socially, any way you look at it. That's one of my biggest goals.
Of course, it takes funding for an organization as capable, vibrant, and critical as Extension to operate effectively and in all four corners of Mississippi. So you can guess what CATCHOT's second beginning goal is.
Probably the second goal that I have as Extension Director is I really want to be able to secure the type of funding that it takes to run this system. You know, every day we're a state organization, and every day we're out there trying to find the dollars to put the people in place, to put them around this state to deliver those messages for us. So it's important to have people in place to do it. And that's a big job. I'm a cheerleader for the people that work for us, and I got to convince the right people to understand that message and support it.
And we will hear more from Dr. CATCHOT over the next couple of weeks. Pretty clear to me that as he takes Extension into a new era, being a people person is a good thing. He'll get the support of the folks that work for him.
I agree. In the limited amount of time I've had to work with him in the field, I've found he's a really good communicator, and I'm glad he's bringing those skills to bear for Extension.
Absolutely.
In other news, more happening with bird flu, those northern lights not so north, getting in the way of farming somewhat, and weather, as you might expect, shaping the markets. Farmweek's Bella Bingham has our Newswire Roundup.
The U.S. government has a new plan to pay farmers to help stop the spread of bird flu in dairy cattle. Over the next few months, the government will pay up to $28,000 per farm to support specific steps needed to stem the spread of H5N1. Payout incentives will also go to producers that supply personal protective equipment to their workers and those that allow workers to participate in CDC research. Additional money will go toward farms' biosecurity efforts and veterinary bills for infected animals. The first bird flu infection in cows was confirmed in March by the USDA. Since then, more than 40 herds have tested positive across 9 states. Right now, health officials say the virus poses little threat to humans. On the other hand, researchers have also faced the question of how the virus was infecting cows in the first place. Experts in the United States and Denmark took on the task of figuring that out. Their findings, published in a recent study, show cows had the same receptors for flu viruses as humans and birds. Scientists fear cows could be mixing bowls, hosts that help the virus learn to better spread between people, and while a rare event, experts say that could put us on the path to another pandemic. Avian flu viruses have decimated commercial poultry flocks in the U.S., and because pigs are known to catch bird flu viruses, swine have been closely monitored for signs of infection. Cows originally weren't on anyone's radar as potential hosts. And finally, those geomagnetic storms that brought dazzling colors to areas that rarely see them did cause some chaos. The New York Times reports some navigational systems in farming equipment broke down a few days ago. The equipment, including tractors, used GPS, as you may know, to plant precise rows to avoid gaps and overlap. Landmark Implement, a John Deere dealer in the Midwest, warned farmers about the disruptions. The timing on these magnetic storms isn't great, as most also know it's the height of planting season in the Midwest and Canada.
You know, Mike, I waited up late to see those northern lights the other evening, and I swear I didn't see a darn thing. I felt like I was left out.
I saw them. They were amazing. I got some great pictures. Experience of a lifetime. In Southern gardening this week, with everything going on in the world, sometimes you just have to get away. Turns out, says Eddie Smith, that getaway could be in your own backyard. And he's got one in Tupelo, Mississippi. You just have to see to believe. Here's Eddie.
Wooded areas in the landscape can make a great woodland garden. Today, Southern Gardening is in Tupelo, Mississippi, admiring Dale Smith's backyard woodland garden. Let's check it out. Entering the woodland garden pathway, you are greeted by a charming Japanese black pine. It is a striking evergreen tree native to coastal areas of Japan and Korea. It is known for its distinctive dark green needles and rugged, picturesque appearance. Moving along the pathway, wild geraniums are blooming. They are native perennial wildflowers found throughout much of North America and are known for their delicate, pale to deep pink or lavender flowers and deeply lobed leaves. The next eye-catching beauty on the pathway is a clump of Virginia bluebells. They are herbaceous perennials native to eastern North America and are prized for their clusters of bell-shaped sky blue flowers, which create a stunning display in the woodland garden. Variegated Solomon seal is another beauty along the pathway. It has bright green foliage with white edges, maroon-tinged stems, and dangling white bell-shaped flowers. This shade-loving plant typically blooms from April to June and attracts bees and butterflies. Also throughout the woodland garden, there are several varieties of columbine plants with unique and colorful blooms that are attractive to pollinators and hummingbirds. Consider transforming a wooded area in your landscape into a magical woodland garden. I'm Eddie Smith, and I will see you next time on Southern Gardening.
We'll take a break right here, but don't go away. Coming up in our Farm Week feature, another trip back in time, 2001 to be exact. The poultry industry is Mississippi's top commodity, topping out at more than $3.5 billion a year. And it's not just an industry for men. Women have helped grow things over the years to be the state's leader. We'll meet, so to speak, 3 of those women, all of whom had a strong beginning at Mississippi State University's Department of Poultry Science. Women in Poultry, that's coming up. Don't go away.
Here's this week's Farm Week calendar. First, have an interest in home canning? Time to attend a canning workshop Tuesday, May 21st, 9 to 2 at the DeSoto County Extension Office. This workshop features water bath and pressure canning with a focus on processing in-season produce. The cost is $30 per person and includes supplies and lunch. Seating is limited. Register now at the MSU Extension website, or for more information, call this number. Next, ever wish you could plant more acres on time? How important is new technology being sold to farmers? And do these systems actually pay for themselves? MSU's Plant and Soil Sciences is hosting a Planting Technology Field Day June 5th, 9 to 1 in Brooksville. This event is free and includes lunch and a field tour with a focus on new tech on soybean, corn, and cotton. For more information and to register, see the MSU Extension website. And that's the Farm Week calendar for this week.
I believe in people and their hopes, their aspirations and their faith, and their right to make their own plans and arrive at their own decisions, and their ability and power to enlarge their lives and plan for the happiness of those they love. I believe that education, of which extension work is an essential part, is basic in stimulating individual initiative, self-determination, and leadership. That these are the keys to democracy, and that people, when given facts they understand, will act not only in their self-interest, but also in the interest of society. Because I believe these things, I am an extension professional.
Time for the markets. The latest WASDE report just dropped.
That's right, Mike, and it had quite a bit to tell us. We'll be getting into it. But first, the numbers. What were last week's biggest gains and losses? And then this month's WASDE report. What did it say? And finally, MSU row crop economist Will Maples tells us what the implications are. So, markets closed last Friday on the upswing, several commodities up in a big way. Let's take a look. Last week's biggest gain, lumber up 35.5 bucks, an over 7% increase from the previous week. Wheat also up 41 cents, a near 7% increase from the previous week. Last week's biggest loss, cotton, down 3/4 cent, a near 1% decrease from the previous week. As we said, this month's WASDE report dropped last week, a monthly domestic and global supply and production report released by the USDA. This one was quite interesting because it made adjustments to the current stocks based on updated numbers from last year, along with new planting information, which we covered last month. Here's what it said.
U.S. wheat supplies up on higher carry-in stocks, and production itself also up due to more acreage and yields. Domestic use up 1% and exports up due to competitive prices. Global wheat supplies a bit lower, but production at a record level. Consumption raised as food, seed, and industrial use growing, while feed and residual use lower. Russia projected to continue being the world's leading wheat exporter. U.S. corn crop projected lower this year due to less acreage. However, yield projected higher. Supplies still highest since 2017 to 2018. Use forecast slightly higher than last year, while ethanol use unchanged. Global corn production down, especially for the U.S., Ukraine, Zambia, Argentina, Malawi, Mozambique, and Turkey. World use expected to rise 1%, while imports and ending stocks lowered. U.S. rice production up 1% from last year with higher acreage, though yield expected lower. Domestic and residual use up along with imports and ending stocks. Global rice supplies up along with production mostly driven by India, China, Bangladesh, and Indonesia. Global consumption also up, causing trade to also rise. India remains the leading exporter. U.S. soybean crop projected higher this year due to more acreage and yields. Supplies also up. Crush increased and exports expected to increase this fall due to lower Brazilian harvest. Global soybean production up mostly due to the U.S., South America, and South Africa. Global crush up while exports also increasing 4%. U.S. beef production down due to tight cattle supplies. Pork, broiler, turkey, and egg production all expected to increase. Poultry up due to recovery from avian influenza. U.S. milk production expected to rise due to higher milk per cow and expanding herd. Cheese and butter prices raised while non-fat dry milk prices lowered. U.S. cotton production projected higher due to more acreage and less abandonment. Supplies expected to increase along with exports. Global cotton supplies projected higher due to unchanged beginning stocks and increased production. Consumption higher as well. Greater global supplies are expected to increase use and world trade to a 4-year high.
Now that you have the context, what did it really say? Sometimes it takes an analyst to help us parse out the fine details, and this week we have MSU Extension row crop economist Will Maples to help us make sense of it. He says this particular report was significant.
Yes, so USDA put out their May WASDE report, which is for the markets a big one because this is USDA's first supply and demand estimates for this upcoming crop year. So kind of starting to get an idea of what 2024, the 25 crop year might look like. Corn, starting there, looking at about a 2 billion bushel carryover this year, which kind of given the current prices will be tough to hold up. Saying we got 2 billion coming from last year and another 2 billion from this year is going to be pretty downward pressure on prices. They did drop their average farm price for corn going into next year, as we would expect with that much carryover coming out. On soybeans, it's kind of the same story. A lot bigger carryover coming out of this year, decrease in average farm price. Very bearish news for the soybean markets from this report going forward. So cotton was pretty neutral to bearish as well. As we said, with corn and soybeans, more carry out, lower average farm prices is the news coming out of the cotton as well. West Texas cotton's got some timely rains as planning's been going. It's going to be important as we get into July to see what that crop gets in terms of rain. That's a very important time period for it. So there's still a lot of weather that can come into play, but with currently the outlook is just bearish supplies pulling prices down. So we got numbers on rice as well, kind of the same story as we're seeing on the other crops. We've seen record high rice prices the last couple of years. It kind of follows with the other crops that we've seen. Those prices are expected to come down a little bit more this year based off of just more supplies and a little bit of demand issues. Weather's going to be the key going forward. So right now, corn planting, it's kind of wet up in the Midwest. It's behind a little bit. They need over the next couple weeks get a good pace going for corn planting. Any slowdown in that could easily lead to a market rally. So looking forward, that's kind of our next biggest chance for anything is if corn planting slows down. Soybean side of things, it's not so important that it gets in the ground quite yet. They've got a little bit longer planting window, so we're not that worried right now. But any weather going forward could easily drive the market higher.
So, looks like prices may soon fall, but that's not always a bad thing. It shows us that supplies are pretty good. And that's it for a deeper look into the markets. Mike?
Thank you, Zach. Time for that look back we've been promising for a couple of weeks. This story produced all the way back in 2001, Women in Poultry, and the impact women from MSU's Poultry Science Department have had on the industry. We begin with the original intro of the story by former Farmweek anchor Artis Ford.
The nation's poultry industry employs many people, especially here in Mississippi. We're fifth in the nation in poultry and egg production. Many of those jobs are filled by men. It's ironic considering women are credited with starting commercial poultry production in the United States. In recent years, however, more women are entering the professional and executive ranks of the poultry industry.
Things are really opening up for females in poultry science. There have been quite a few that have graduated since I was there, and there were several before me, and we're all doing really well. And you have to be willing to get out there and figure out what you want to do and stay there, and you have to pay your dues and tough it out, but it's worth it. And I think it's a good career choice for a woman right now.
Ren Laster McDonald is the Director of Food Safety for the world's largest egg producer, Cal-Maine Foods of Jackson, Mississippi. She is one of a growing number of women working in professional and executive roles in the nation's poultry industry. Dr. Wallace Morgan is the head of the Poultry Science Department at Mississippi State University. He says 21% of his bachelor degree candidates are women. Morgan says the opportunities are there for women and men in the poultry industry and its allied businesses.
In my history here since 1980, and I'm sure it goes back before that, we've never had a student graduate that did not have a job offer. Never. And most of the times there will be numerous offers.
The 100% job placement rate for graduates was a big factor in McDonald choosing a poultry science degree at MSU. The Mississippi native also earned a master's degree in food science. McDonald makes sure Cal-Maine's 23 nationwide locations package eggs that are safe and produced according to federal and state laws, not to mention customer specifications.
Especially here with Cal-Maine, there's a very strong commitment to food safety, and the upper management relays that to our people who are out in the field and things like that. So actually it makes my job a lot easier. Plus, you just have to try to get along with people and just try to make them understand that all the documentation and all the paperwork we do, it protects me, it protects them, it protects our company as a whole. And once you try to get that across to them, it helps them understand a little bit more as to why we have to do what we have to do.
Piece size consistency, making sure that all...
Judy Harrison grew up on a poultry farm before graduating in 1989 with a degree in poultry science from MSU. The Mize, Mississippi native worked with 2 poultry processors before coming to the KFC Corporation in 1992.
I'm a quality assurance scientist, and we work with all the fresh poultry suppliers. We have specs and QA programs for all our products, and we work with the suppliers to make sure that they're providing the restaurants with the products they're supposed to be getting.
Harrison works out of KFC's world headquarters in Louisville, Kentucky. She coordinates quality assurance work. This includes inspecting and working with processing plants to ensure the poultry meets KFC requirements. For example, the chickens are delivered already cut to KFC restaurants. These pieces must meet size specifications. The bone-in pieces must be fresh, not frozen.
So we get chickens in where the cut's just not right, and we don't think the freshness is there, and we don't think the quality is there. We don't have any problem calling them up and letting them know we need some help on this.
My job entails quite a bit of travel, which I enjoy that. But meeting people and seeing places, and it's just interesting to me as to what all the product goes through, because even spending years on a chicken farm, it's amazing what the product goes through at the plant level, and people buying even products from a grocery store have no idea what all that product went through and what the people that were behind that product were involved with and getting it to them in the way that it did.
Karen Cooper of Hattiesburg, Mississippi is getting her degree in poultry science at MSU. She intends to become a veterinarian specializing in poultry.
You can get a job with like Tyson, Sanderson, somebody like that. You'll be the company veterinarian. You'll fly to their different locations and check out the different farms and make sure all the vaccinations. You do a lot of chicken, for vaccinations on chickens. If you have any problems, like all of a sudden you might have a bad disease break out, you got to figure out, fix that. You have to plan ahead for that disease again, in the future.
Wallace Morgan says the work of poultry science graduates is not limited strictly to chickens.
We have some real good scientists in the department if they're interested in the science aspect of it, from physiology, nutrition, food science, wherever it may be. We're intertwined with those graduate programs. We've had companies in Atlanta, Georgia at the annual trade show for the U.S. Poultry and Egg Association. It's a huge trade show. They interview college graduates from all over the United States, and I guess Canada too, for that matter, if they wanted to come there. And we have had companies come and designate a day to talk to our students. Our students are the most highly recruited there. I can say that and feel comfortable.
Rossburg, your EBs?
Yeah.
Ren McDonald wrote the Food Safety and Quality Assurance Program, which covers all Cal-Maine's egg operations. McDonald says her job is just one example of the possible careers in poultry science.
I can think of lots of different things that even just people that I graduated with are doing now. The food safety area is a very good area to be in right now. But then there are also live production people. There are people that work in the processing plants. There are broiler breeder companies that are hiring people that are coming out of poultry science departments across the country, and there's just numerous things that you can do with a degree in poultry science. So it gives you a little bit of room to get out there and find your niche and figure out what you really want to do.
And Leighton, I might add, when I was doing the story, and I didn't ask people this, but it just came up. They talked about, with it being a smaller department here on campus, that more of a family atmosphere, that it's...
Yeah, you got the feeling, you know, everyone knows everyone.
Everyone knows everyone, and two, the students get individual attention. It's hard to be anonymous. And I know some students like to be anonymous, but they did mention that the atmosphere, that they felt like somebody cared, and that helped them to learn even more.
And always fun to look back. 23 years in the blink of an eye. Well, next time on Farm Week, an extraordinary encore episode of Extension Matters.
It's a breathtaking view above ground of an amazing underwater partnership between MSU Extension and the Mississippi Aquarium, a spectacular showcase of the extreme wonders of the Gulf Coast.
Visitors get up close and personal with creatures of the deep, the aquarium sparking their interest and curiosity. Diving deep, that's next time on Farm Week.
Remember, if you missed a story, look for past episodes of Farm Week on our website at farmweek.tv.
And don't forget to follow us on Facebook and YouTube. See you next week. Thanks for watching.